50 amazing Hot Toys figures. No, better yet, the 50 very best Hot Toys figures of 2024. Guys, Hot Toys released 94 figures in 2024, and today we're going to rank and count down the 50 very best. Buckle up, because it's gonna be quite the ride. But before we get started, make sure to click the like button, click the subscribe button, and click that notification bell down below so you're notified when content goes live on this channel. That said, let's get into it. Starting out with number 50, we have the Hot Toys Morbius. Now, Morbius was a film that was very, I guess you could say, infamous. It was not beloved by fans of the comic book movie genre. It is considered to be one of the worst comic book films of all time, and I think that's probably for good reason. Nonetheless, Hot Toys made a figure here that is actually very good. Morbius is a figure that obviously stems from the Marvel comic books, and for those who wanted a comic book representation, it certainly can serve as that. If you like the film, that's great. Maybe you ended up picking this up for that reason, but for most collectors, I would say they ended up passing just because the film was so terrible. And because it was so terrible, it ended up being one that probably didn't have a lot of units produced for this figure. Nonetheless, it turned out great. You have the bats here, you have the various purple effects, you have just one head sculpt, so no Jared Leto head sculpt, you just have the Morbius head sculpt, which is probably all you're gonna need. I mean, for a film this bad, do you really need a Jared Leto head sculpt? Probably not an unmasked head sculpt, so to speak. You just need the Morbius version. I think there's a lot of detail here in the sculpted hair, the beard, the vampire teeth, and of course the eyes, and even the skin texture for that matter. The wrinkling and the overall vampiric look to this figure, I think does it a nice service and justice. So to me, I think this is a good figure. I like the effects. The tailoring is pretty good. This would never be a figure you would find in my collection just because the film is such ass, but still the figure came out pretty good. So I do think it's worthy of an inclusion on this list because it does again serve as a comic representation and it turned out to be a pretty good figure. So number 50, Morbius. Let's move on to the next one. And at number 49, we have the Hot Toys Mace Windu from Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones. Now, for me, I do think this figure is worthy of an inclusion on this list solely because it is a Mace Windu representation, which collectors have been clamoring for ages now. Since I started collecting in 2017, I see it in the comments section all the time, and now we finally have one. I do think Hot Toys let collectors down here because I do think the head sculpt slightly resembles Samuel L. Jackson and Mace Windu, but not quite there. I think you look at it on the shelf and you know who it's supposed to be, but you don't recognize, oh, that's 100% Mace Windu. And I think Hot Toys, in terms of their capability and their overall quality they produce, they are very much capable of that when we look at some of these other figures on the list here. And with Mace, that's not the case. You look at this head sculpt, and it's certainly solid. It's not terrible, but it's not good either. It's certainly like maybe a 7, something along those lines. And for Mace Windu, I think he deserves better than that. I think Mace is an amazing character, and I would love to have one in my collection, but I'm not willing to settle for this one because I don't feel like it truly represents him accurately. I love the outfit. The overall Jedi robe and cloak is really great. And of course, now you have a Mace Windu that looks pretty okay, but you should shoot for better than okay. I still think it's good. It's a good representation. That's why it's number 49. And in number 48, we have Hot Toys Gorr the God Butcher from Thor Love and Thunder. I think this is a complete missed opportunity by Hot Toys. I don't think this character is absolute grail status in terms of how people view him. I think a lot of people view him as a missed opportunity for the film itself because he was underutilized and honestly unappreciated considering Christian Bale is such an amazing actor and was so good in the role. But the film is pretty mid. I think we all recognize that. And the outfit on this figure is really cool, but they decided for some reason to go with visibly jointed arms. I understand the scarring on the arms, but it wasn't to me very lifelike, which is problematic when you get a Hot Toys figure. You can see the jointed arms very visibly there. And it's very frustrating to me when you see that and you're paying $250, $270 for the figure, and it doesn't look as lifelike as it could. Seamless would have been difficult for this figure, but still, I think there should have been something done to have swappable arms to make it look less toyish. Regardless, I think the head sculpt is amazing. This is one of the best head sculpts Hot Toys has done in 2024. And the outfit is also amazing. There's some really great tailoring. I think it has a lot of presence with that white on the shelf. The Necrosword, I think, is also really cool as an accessory, as Gorr's primary weapon there. But I just think they failed him in terms of the lifelike realism and accuracy, considering those visible joints are such an eyesore. They're so visibly seen and noticeable, and they stick out like a sore thumb, and it ruins that amazing head sculpt, which I think this could have been a figure of the year contender had they done this right. But since they didn't, I think it belongs at number 48. And in number 47, we have the Iron Patriot. This is a comic book figure from Hot Toys. It was an exclusive figure and is one that you had to jump in the queue for to order or buy it from a reseller in some way. So I do think it's pretty cool. To me, as a non-comic book reader, this is an Iron Man with a star in the middle and a Captain America shield with some blue mixed in. To others, it has different comic book, roots that I think are very important for nostalgic purposes. Apparently this is, I guess it's Norman Osborn in Iron Patriot armor. So I do think others have told me that this is very important to them. To me, again, I have no sentimental connection to this one, but I do think it looks cool. And I'm glad that comic book figures are being made so collectors can add them to their collection and, fulfill that representation that they've been searching for those nostalgic purposes. At number 46, we have the Hot Toys 1989 Batmobile. You guys know by now, if you've watched this channel for any reasonable amount of time, that the 1989 Batman is not my iteration definitive version of Batman. I like Michael Keaton. I thought the film was fine, but for me, it's not something that I would need to collect. But a lot of collectors disagree. They find 1989 Batman to be the best one. I'm more of a Christian Bale, the Dark Knight guy, but to each their own. I think Keaton is also fantastic. And you have a really cool vehicle here. Again, these vehicles take up a ton of space. They're a little bit more expensive than figures, usually about 2 to 3 times as much, but they do have a lot of detail here. But you got to have the space. You got to be willing to, dedicate it to Batman. And of course, you have something here that costs extensively more than a figure does. So I do think the detail is awesome. The paint applications are awesome. These can feel a little bit plasticky in hand, but on the shelf, they look amazing. But when you hold them in your hand, they feel a little bit toyish, but they look really lifelike on the shelf. At number 45, we have the Hot Toys Mandalorian Super Commando. I'm not a big trooper guy. The Death Trooper Specialist is my favorite trooper, or maybe if you count the Praetorian Guards as troopers, I love those as well. But for me, the Mandalorian Super Commando is a very cool figure. I love the red color scheme, the Darth Maul horns, the weathering. I do think this one looks pretty cool. It does have some presence on a shelf. If you're a trooper collector, I think this is one that's really going to stand out in your display just because of the color scheme and the horns. I think there's a lot to like here in terms of the overall costume design and how Hot Toys has recreated it. Again, you got great weathering there, a red color scheme with some gray mixed in and accents. I think this one looks pretty cool. Even in a simple pose such as this, I do think it has a lot of presence, and that's why to me it's number 45. As a non-trooper collector, I still think you can make this guy look really good. He does have a little bit of a Boba Fett look to him, which I think is going to be pretty cool in your display. So for me, I like this one, just not for me, so number 45. At number 44, we have the Clone Commander Fox. So trooper collectors represent, I'm giving you guys your representation here. You have a really cool Clone Commander Fox figure here. The Clone Wars is obviously a very popular IP from the Star Wars franchise, and a lot of collectors want to have representations from really all of it on their shelf. And the troopers are no exemption from that. So I think the Clone Commander Fox figure does look very cool. As someone who's not really a big Clone Wars guy myself, I think this one does have a lot of presence on the shelf. Again, the maroon and the white with the weathering. I think the helmet is also very cool. The rifle also has a lot of personality and gives that cool, badass look to the character. And again, trooper collectors have educated me quite frequently that each of these clones has their own personality and role to play in the story. So I'm glad that this one is, fulfilling that void on a shelf and offering collectors a really cool trooper that they can add in. So to me, it's just another trooper, but to a lot of collectors, it's a really important representation. So for that reason, and the fact that it looks really cool and it's executed well, I'm gonna say 44. Switching things up on you guys just a little bit, at number 43 here, throwing your curveball, we have the Hono Studios Wolverine figure. Hono Studios is a subsidiary brand of the Hot Toys brand, and they make figures that are a little bit more affordable right now of comic book characters. So they made this Wolverine with seamless arms, and I do think it's a really good figure. There have been multiple versions announced since then, which is unfortunate. That's a whole topic altogether, but I do think this figure came out pretty good for the price point. Under $200, this guy looks really good, and I do think a lot of collectors ended up being very happy with this one. You have a really cool base here where you can plug in your comic book and really have a cool comic book display in your collection. Again, you don't have to use that part. If you just want to use the regular standard base, you can. And I do think this one is really impressive. For entry-level, introductory 1/6 scale for Hot Toys figures, this one is a great one to add to your collection if you're a comic book fan and you love Wolverine. Again, seamless arms, multiple faceplates there, as you can see. I think this guy is really cool. So for me, I like it. And at number 42, we have the Hot Toys Moff Gideon from The Mandalorian Season 3. The Mandalorian Season 3 is a bit of a mixed bag. It honestly was a very disappointing season when you compare it to seasons 1 and 2, which were excellent television and really helped revitalize Star Wars for a brief period of time. Well, since then, Mandalorian season 3 felt aimless and directionless, and like they didn't really know where they wanted this story to go. And because of that, you have an Iron Gideon, Moff Gideon here that returns. And while it looks like a really cool figure, the character was a little bit disappointing in where it ended up going. I do think this guy is a badass figure though, and Hot Toys did a great job recreating him. Again, this one is gonna look super cool on a shelf. If you have no connection to the character and you just want something that looks cool, which is not a strategy that I generally recommend, this guy would probably be it because he looks super cool. This is a badass looking character. He almost looks like a trooper captain of some kind, but I do think the overall color scheme and design of the costume is great. The head sculpt, better than the original head sculpt, still not perfect to Giancarlo Esposito, but for now I do think it serves as an okay representation. You're probably going to put the helmet on him most likely anyway, but if you don't, I think you have a head sculpt that is pretty solid to good here. It definitely is better than the original by a mile. That one I was not happy with, but I do think overall this figure looks pretty cool. You got a wired cape there, as you can see, a solid head sculpt, and a really cool outfit and costume design. This one's going to really pop on a shelf. I think this one is a solid figure here, and if it had more of an impact into the story and really had a better season overall, I think it would be higher on this list. But because of that and the disappointment that is associated with it, I think this is a fair spot for it. Next up is the Hot Toys exclusive 000 figure. I've joked around for quite a while now and said that this is Darkseid C-3PO. This is a figure that comes from different origins from C-3PO. He's an assassin's droid. He has a red light up LED function in the eyes, as you can see. But the rest of the figure is basically C-3PO with some different paint applications. Although that is the case, I do think this is a really cool figure. And this is a character that means a lot to a lot of people. So again, I'm glad people are getting their representation there. Again, I like that this guy is an assassin's droid. He looks badass, super cool. He's like evil C-3PO, again, Darkseid C-3PO, and I do think that can't be ignored, that Hot Toys is exploring maybe more obscure characters in Star Wars, Marvel, and otherwise to really add people's, to make people build their collection in the way they want to and add more variety and diversity to collections out there, which I think is really cool. And at number 40, we have the Hot Toys Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan Kenobi is on this list because it is the best representation from Hot Toys for Kenobi thus far. Still, I don't love this head sculpt. I've been very vocal that I think it's okay at best. I think it's a disappointing miss, honestly, but I do think it's better than the Revenge of the Sith option. And because of that, I do think that it is an option for collectors who really desperately want a Kenobi. And for that reason, I think number 40 is fair. I do like the outfit. The show was pretty ass. I think most of us agree on that one. And I think the head sculpt is okay. The rock base is a reuse with a slight addition from the Endgame Battle Damage Mark 85 figure. I think this figure is okay. I think it's very mid. I think it's disappointing in some ways. I think number 40 is fair for that reason because it is the best Hot Toys Kenobi, but at the same time, I just think the head sculpt is a miss. I'm hoping for an eventual Artisan version where they improve the head sculpt and the overall likeness and the hair even. For now, this one will serve many collectors well. It's not going to be me though. I want a Kenobi bad, but I'm not willing to settle, and I think this one is a miss. Still, number 40, I think that's fair. All right, so at number 39, we have the Hot Toys Death Trooper. I like to refer to him as the undead Death Trooper because that's basically what he is. He's a zombie Death Trooper from the Ahsoka series in Thrawn's army. I like this guy. He was an exclusive figure, so it's not one that everyone got their hands on, but I don't think it's one that everyone needed to get their hands on. It's a very unique sort of, unique variant type of figure of the Death Trooper that I don't think everyone's going to be lining up to purchase and add to their display. So for me, this is not one I'm going to add despite the fact that I love the Death Trooper. I want a Death Trooper specialist, so I'm waiting for another version of that. But for now, I think this guy is a really cool variant and honestly a figure that has a ton of presence on any shelf he's going to be on. And at number 38, we have the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 Groot. This is a really cool figure. I loved Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Groot is not a character that I feel I need in my collection right now. If I were to get one, I would get the Guardians 1 Groot. I still think that's the definitive badass, coolest version. This one is a very good option, but I don't think it's as cool as that first version. Nonetheless, I think this guy was executed very well by Hot Toys. You have the Groot head there, as you can see, that you can display separately. And of course, the cool tree Groot bark-like design for this Groot character here. I think this is really fun. And for me, Guardians was a great film. It made, I think, around $800 million. It kind of got Marvel rejuvenated there for a little bit, and then it started to decline again, unfortunately. But I think Hot Toys did a great job with making this guy into figure form, recreating him and bringing him to life at 1/6 scale. I think they've done a really good job at that. And because of that, I think it's very fair and reasonable to put him at this number on the list. I think 38 is reasonable considering it's a great character, it's a great film, and it's one that I think a lot of collectors will enjoy having in their display. At number 37, we have the Hot Toys Shuri Black Panther from Wakanda Forever. Wakanda Forever was a good film. It certainly wasn't a great one in my eyes like the first film was, because you don't have T'Challa, you don't have Chadwick Boseman. It's not quite the same. I think had Chadwick been around to fight Namor as Black Panther in the second one, that could have been a great story and a great film. Still, they did the best they could with what they had to work with, and I think this film came out pretty solid. Shuri did a great job as Black Panther, and she does have a pretty cool suit here. You can see her lined up with the other Black Panthers. You have the T'Challa 2.0 Civil War suit, and then of course you have the Black Panther suit from the first Black Panther film. Nonetheless, I think this looks pretty good. You have another great head sculpt here for Shuri, and of course for the Black Panther suit, you have a lot of great texturing and detail that really helps this one pop on the shelf. To me, the problem is the connection to the character. I like Shuri as Black Panther, but I didn't quite vibe with her as much as I did Chadwick, and for that reason, I think the figure just suffers just a little bit for me. And in number 36, we have the Hot Toys Valkyrie. Valkyrie is worthy of an inclusion on this list because this is a character that collectors have wanted for a very long time. And overall, Hot Toys did a pretty good job. These are the prototype images because the blogger images are unfortunately not available on social media for whatever reason. So we're looking at the prototype here, which was a very strong prototype. The final product declined just a bit, has a little bit of a dead stare and some slightly lesser paint applications, but overall this is a good figure. You have seamless arms, you have some slightly visible shoulder joints, unfortunately just due to the nature of the armor and the costume design, but overall this is a Valkyrie representation that is pretty solid. Do I think it's the greatest figure of the year or the greatest figure I've seen in recent years? Not even close, but I do think it's solid and a pretty good representation. So next up we have the exclusive clone Commando Scorch. This is a very important character or trooper figure for a lot of collectors because he originated from a Star Wars video game years back, and then he actually showed up in Bad Batch as well, which is what this figure is labeled as from Bad Batch. Really cool color design. Again, not a character I'm overly familiar with, but I really like him. The fact that he was exclusive was disappointing for some collectors because he wasn't readily available for everyone, but has a really cool color design, and I'm glad that collectors who did scoop him are happy with their purchase. You have a yellow, gray, black, and white color design with a bit of blue in the visor, which looks pretty cool. The blasters look great. Again, this guy has a lot of presence and really makes a trooper collection come to life. And again, he's a named character. He's important. He's not just another trooper. So I think that's worthy of an inclusion here. And again, it's a character similar to others that you'll see on this list that collectors didn't think would be made, and now they have representation, and it looks awesome. So yeah, pretty cool. And in number 34, we have the Hot Toys Mighty Thor. That is quite a mouthful, a lot of alliteration there. What this is a Jane Foster figure with a Natalie Portman likeness of this Mighty Thor figure from Thor Love and Thunder. Again, Thor Love and Thunder, you're gonna sense the trend here, pretty mid-film, but the figure line actually turned out pretty solid to good. And this figure is no exclusion from that list. I think this one has a really cool look to it. Again, with the helmet or with the sculpted hair head on, you can do either. You can see you have a Natalie Portman likeness there. With the shoulder joint just barely visible, but you're probably not going to notice it on display. You got a wired cape, got a cracked Mjolnir, you got a really cool helmet design, a costume design there. Again, this is a really cool iteration of this character, and really the only one you're going to get. You're not going to see Mighty Thor show up again anytime soon, obviously for obvious reasons, and because of that, I think this one is a really cool addition to a Thor fans collection. And at number 33, we have the Hot Toys Supergirl from The Flash. The Flash is a film that I've been on record for quite a while now that I hated. I really did not like that film at all. It was not for me, but film is subjective, so if you love The Flash, fantastic. A lot of people did, although it didn't make very much money at the box office, unfortunately. Regardless, we have a really good figure here of Supergirl. This is a character that, for me, was not that exciting because she didn't get to do that much. She just showed up, did a couple things, and died. But the figure looks pretty good. Of course, you have a wired cape with a lot of intricacies and details on it. The suit texture is really unique and cool. And again, there's a lot of fans of the character of Supergirl out there, and this figure is going to help, fill that representation again, which is a common sentiment you're going to see expressed in this video in all 50 of these figures. You have a lot of cool details in the outfit with the texturing and the sort of bumps and details. And I do think the color scheme is pretty cool. And I think the Superman design here is really great. It's a Superman type suit for Supergirl. and I think it translates well. It translates effectively and looks good. So next up is Hot Toys Baylan Skoll, portrayed by Ray Stevenson, rest in peace. This was a really great character and a great addition to the Ahsoka Disney Plus series. This figure I think turned out solid. I don't think the head sculpt is fantastic. I think it's okay, but overall I think it's a good representation. I think Ray Stevenson's likeness is certainly in there. I think this is probably about an 8 out of 10. I think the beard is actually sculpted very effectively, as is the hair, and the outfit looks absolutely awesome. If you were to display him like this with the hood on, it's not going to matter all that much, and I think you're going to love it because any deficiencies with the head sculpt are going to be mostly concealed, so it's not a huge problem. I think this is a really cool figure, and I hope that Shin comes out as good, if not better, than Baylan did. Next up, we have the Hot Toys Sabine Wren, also from the Ahsoka Disney Plus series. Now, this one is a beautiful head sculpt. This is absolutely incredible. The likeness to the actress and to the character is awesome. I do think the costume is also really well done. It's tailored well, it looks accurate to the show, and I think this figure is going to look excellent on your shelf. That said, the character was one that I wasn't that much of a fan of. I thought Sabine was okay at best, but I wasn't really all that connected to her journey in season 1 of Ahsoka. Still, you have a really great figure, and Hot Toys did a great job again bringing her to life here. That visible neck joint in the back, not ideal, but a lot of figures have that. It's not completely immersion or figure breaking, and if you put the helmet on her, the problem is solved. Totally up to you, but covering up that head sculpt that's so nice is a little bit of a disappointment. So for me, I think most collectors are probably going to keep the head sculpt on. This looks great. This is a really cool looking figure. It's one that I think a lot of collectors want because of their Clone War affiliations, but I think for Ahsoka and for live action, you got a good figure here and a character that hopefully will improve and get better, but for now, kind of mid, but the figure, fantastic. So at number 29 and number 28 respectively, we have Neytiri and Jake Sully from Avatar 2. So these are really cool looking figures. You do have visible joints on these as well, but they're tall and they have a lot of presence associated with them. The visible joints are a little bit better concealed just because of the blue skin texture on these figures. Again, there's a lot of joints here from the foot to the knees, all the way up to the forearms there and even the wrists, obviously with the wrist pegs, and even the shoulders. So there's a lot going on here with articulation, but these photos are really, really cool. And the likenesses are undeniably awesome. So for me, I'm glad that Hot Toys are creating these type of figures because I like things outside of Marvel, Star Wars, and DC every so often, and in terms of these one-off franchises and properties that are very popular that aren't getting, figure recreations from other companies at this type of level. Next up, we have the Hot Toys Thor from Thor: Love and Thunder. This is a very cool figure as well. From an aesthetic standpoint, I think this is one of the best looking Thors, maybe the best looking Thor from a costume design. I don't think it's the best head sculpt, surprisingly enough. I think Roadborn Thor is a really cool looking Thor with probably a better head sculpt than this one. I also like Infinity War for how iconic it is, considering that to me was Thor at his peak powers. But in Thor: Love and Thunder, you have a really cool costume design. You have Stormbreaker with a more accurate size than the one that showed up in Infinity War. So again, this head sculpt is certainly not bad. It resembles Chris Hemsworth, albeit not perfect. There is room for improvement. And the armor is actually pretty cool. You have the lightning effects there, as you can see, which is pretty cool. And again, I think this is one that is going to be a substitute for a lot of collectors who can't get Roadborn Thor or another Thor that they prefer. And this one is a great option. Again, if you just want a Thor in your collection, one that looks good, that looks like Chris Hemsworth, that represents your love for the character, this is a great option. And maybe you loved Love and Thunder, and if you did, you have the perfect Thor for you. All right, so next up we have the Hot Toys Batman modern suit from The Flash. So this is Michael Keaton, old Michael Keaton Batman that appeared in the Flash film. Again, not a huge fan of the Flash, the film. I do think this figure turned out pretty good though. I'm not crazy about the head sculpt. I do see a decline in the overall likeness due to the softening of the paint applications, but I think with the cowl on, it looks awesome. This is a really cool looking figure. You can see the skin texture and the age underneath the mask there, and the eyes have a lot of life to them. You got swappable faceplates, really cool armor design here that I think is a unique addition to the 89 Batman Armory there that I think has been really cool with Returns and of course 89. And now you have this modern suit, which I think looks very cool. It has sort of, I think, comic a vibe to me, but also film in a way. So it's really like a nice, healthy mixture between the two. Again, multiple cowled looks, a Michael Keaton head sculpt that is still pretty good, albeit not as great as the prototype was. I do think there are other Batman Keaton figures that are going to be better than this one, like maybe the Returns version. But for those who want the one from The Flash, this is a great option. All right, so next up, we have the Hot Toys Artisan Joker, the Batman imposter version. So this is one that I'm not sure where it originated from. There's theories out there that it originated from a cosplay that a collector did a long time ago, or a cosplayer did, a fan did a long time ago. But you have a beautiful Heath Ledger Joker head sculpt with rooted wool hair here. This was an artisan figure, so you had to join a queue or buy it from a reseller to get it, or if you live in Hong Kong, a little bit different. But this is a cool figure. I mean, you have a Batman armor here with Joker, you know, glow up to it, I guess you could call it there. You have a tattered cape with purple in the back, and of course, various paint applications with haha written on various points of the costume, and a cool base with Batman steps, and of course, a Joker nameplate on there as well. This is really in here for the head sculpt. This head sculpt is absolutely beautiful, and you have a very unique figure here that not a lot of other collectors are going to have in their collection. A beautiful head sculpt, a really cool design, and a really unique idea here. Hot Toys just dropped this one on us randomly. This was actually the first artisan figure released, and it impressed collectors and wowed us, you know, in ways that we didn't expect, honestly. And next up, we have the Hot Toys Padme from Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Padme is a figure that collectors have been calling for years now. This is another one akin to Cyborg or maybe Mace Windu, where the collectors in the comments have been saying, where's Padme? Where's Padme? Is she safe? Is she all right? There have been so many collectors who have wanted this figure, and I think overall it turned out pretty good. This looks almost exactly like the Jane Foster head sculpt to me with a different hairpiece. I'm willing to bet that's what it is. I really like a lot about this head sculpt except for the eyes. The eyes seem a little bit too large in my opinion, a little bit enlarged here, but the overall figure looks fantastic. I love the cape there. I love the overall white and how it pops in a display with the metal metallic forearm or bicep pieces as well. And of course you have a headpiece there that you can use if you'd like to, but you're covering up that head sculpt, which is kind of defeating the purpose a bit. Again, Padme, really cool character, great Star Wars character, and this is really going to fulfill a lot of representation for collectors. For me, I think it looks pretty cool. Again, Padme is not that important to me. Unfortunately, I do think this head sculpt is good, not great, but again, it's a representation of a character that is desperately, sorely needed, and I think it turned out pretty good. So at number 23, we have the John Wick from John Wick Chapter 4. John Wick is one of my favorite characters. I love John Wick. I love all 4 of the John Wick films. That said, I do think Hot Toys has not quite nailed his likeness just yet. This one is certainly better than the original one. The original one was from John Wick Chapter 2, and that one was very much a disappointment. This one is okay. It's okay. I do think John Wick can be done a lot better by Hot Toys or maybe even another company such as InArt, but for now, this is the best likeness that is available to us as collectors. I'm planning on picking this one up. I don't like it. I'm not thrilled about it just because I really want a John Wick badly. And I do have the mentality of buy nice or buy twice. And I'm almost certain that Hot Toys will announce an artisan version at some point, or InArt will do one that will be better than this. But until then, this is the best John Wick available. And for that reason, I do think it's worthy of an inclusion on this list because it's not a bad figure. I just think it's a little bit lacking in terms of the likeness. And at 22, we have Caine from John Wick Chapter 4. The reason that this one is higher than John Wick is because, simply put, this is a better head sculpt. John Wick is a more important character, but Caine was still really badass, and I love seeing Donnie Yen in this role, and really in any role, because I love him in pretty much everything I've seen him in. So, love this figure, really like it a lot, and I think that a lot of collectors are going to be happy with it if they love the John Wick franchise, and they want some supporting characters such as Caine to fill a John Wick display in their collection. Caine is awesome. With the glasses on, perfect. Obviously, it's covering up a lot of the likeness with the eyes and all that stuff. The figure is not super exciting beyond that. I mean, it's just a guy in a turtleneck and a blue suit. So not too much in terms of costume design there. That's really kind of wow people on the shelf. But if people know John Wick and they like the films, this one is going to be pretty exciting to those type of people who either collect or come to view your collection. So here we have the Hot Toys Advanced Suit 2.0 Spider-Man in the red and black version. This is a variant of the Advanced Suit 2.0, which I have, and I love that figure. I love the Advanced Suit Spider-Man suit. The Advanced Suit 2.0 is even better than the first, and now you have this just in a different color scheme with the red and black. I really like this a lot. Again, I love this Spider-Man suit. To me, it represents the Spider-Man video games, the Advanced Suit 2.0, the regular version, and the red and black is a cool variant. I love a red and black suit Spider-Man. This is not one that I chose to add to my collection because I already have Advanced Suit 2.0 and I'm just sticking with that one. But for collectors who really like this variant, it's a great option. The proportions on this figure and the texture of the suit, it allows for more significant posing long-term, although you still want to be careful with creasing and reset the figure every so often. But I still think this figure looks awesome, dude. You got the claws, you got the symbiote accessories, and of course you got a red and black color scheme that is unique. This one was exclusive because it's not for everyone. Advanced Suit 2.0 was exclusive, and that's for more people. And I think this one is pretty cool. So if you love red and black suit Spider-Mans, this one is a real winner. And at number 20, we have the Hot Toys Batman The Dark Knight Rises Armory. So it's a Bruce Wayne set with a Batman suit body and of course the armory that you can fill with Bruce Wayne's and Batman's accessories. The Bruce Wayne is a power pose. It's a statue. You can put the head sculpt on. You can't pose it, but it looks fantastic. For that reason, I think this one is a really cool addition to a collector's display should you love the Dark Knight trilogy and you have display space for an armory. There's a lot of cool detail and things to like about this figure. It has that dew sort of wet texture because of the bat cave, and the paint applications on that are really cool. And I think the Bruce Wayne is actually pretty good. You have the knee brace there. The power pose is fine to me. I'd rather have this than have a visibly jointed Bruce Wayne that I wouldn't love displaying. So for me, I do think a lot of collectors are going to pick this one up unless you're getting the Dark Knight Armory, which I think is a little bit better. But if you like the Dark Knight Rises version, by all means, be my guest. This one's great. This is the best Batman produced by Hot Toys Collectibles insofar as Christian Bale Batman is concerned. And if you're looking for that suit, you have a pretty good one here. As you can see, this looks absolutely fantastic. I need a Batman in my collection, so I'm holding out just a little while longer, but if I can find this one for a reasonable price, I might just cop it. This looks great. Really like it a lot. And at number 19, we have the Hot Toys Mantis. Mantis is another figure that collectors have been clamoring for a really long time now. People have wanted to complete their Guardians display, and Mantis was one of the missing pieces of that. Well, you finally have a release here, and this head sculpt is out of this world good. Hot Toys updated it throughout the production process and improved it, and the results definitely show. This figure is fantastic. It has a lot of presence. The green, and of course with the antennas on the head. Mantis is a really funny and cool character, so I'm glad they made the Christmas special so this figure got made at all. You can display her in her Christmas outfit if you would like, such as this, but I assume most collectors are going to use the more standard display like this with the other Guardians. And Drax desperately needs an update, but unfortunately it doesn't seem like it's coming anytime soon or at all. So for now, you're gonna have to roll with that first Drax if you have that one. Regardless, Mantis looks great. Whether you choose to display her in Christmas vibes or not, maybe you can just change her display and set up every Christmas and then revert her back to her original look when you feel like it. But Mantis is great. It's a really cool looking figure. Not one that I feel like is essential to my collection, but for a lot of Guardians fans, she is. And Hot Toys absolutely nailed this one. And at number 18, we have Star-Lord from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Now, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 Star-Lord is a team suit Star-Lord. So you don't even have all of the team members associated, unfortunately. You have Nebula and you have Rocket, that's it. So you could display the trio in their team suits, but you're not seemingly going to get the other options available to you here. So you have a really cool figure nonetheless. Whether you want to display him by himself or with the other two, you can. The head sculpt is awesome. This is the best Chris Pratt likeness that Hot Toys has produced thus far. Not the coolest outfit, unfortunately, but the head sculpt is certainly the best. I do think Star-Lord from Volume 2 is still the best Star-Lord, not because it has a better head sculpt, but because it has the long coat and a cooler outfit. Still, you have a really cool team suit Star-Lord here, and again, that best head sculpt cannot be taken lightly. That's not something we can discount outright. So because of that, I think this guy is worthy of adding to a collection for the right Star-Lord fan. And next up, we have Dead Strange from Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. This was a film that I left a little bit disappointed by. I went in with such high expectations. I was really excited for it. And I do think there were some elements of it that I enjoyed and many others that I did not, unfortunately. You have a chocolate hand Dead Strange here, which I like to joke, but those burnt charred hands look a little bit chocolatey. And I do think it's a really cool figure overall. A lot of presence, has that zombified look to it. And of course, the likeness to Benedict Cumberbatch and his Dead Strange look in the film is very strong. Again, the intricacies and the details in the overall torso and abdomen area and the chest is awesome. The hands, everything about this figure really looks super lifelike and true to the film. And when you do have the display space to separate the wings out and have him in full Dead Strange look, this thing has a ton of presence. This is one that is really, really going to pop on a shelf. And I'm glad that Hot Toys undertook this project and really made this figure for collectors, because this is a part of the film that I saw immediately and I said, okay, Hot Toys is going to want to make this because it's too cool. It's going to look amazing on a shelf. And again, if you love Doctor Strange and you love Multiverse of Madness, I don't see how you could pass on this guy. And next up, we have Hot Toys Thrawn from the Ahsoka Disney Plus TV series. For me, I think this head sculpt is out of this world good. I have this figure displayed in my collection right now, and it's absolutely awesome. Let me be clear though, the tailoring is ass. The suit is far too baggy. The pants are fine. They're a little bit baggier and bulkier in the show. That is totally fine. But the real star of the show here is the head sculpt. Thrawn does not come with all that much because he doesn't really need to. He comes with a iPad, basically. He comes with a blaster to put in the holster or to put it in his hand. And that's about it. I mean, he comes with a little display table with a ship on it as well, with his ship in hologram form, but there's really not much you really need for this guy. But you have to pose him in a way that's going to hide the ass tailoring. It's a little bit baggy, it's a little bit too bulky, and it's not one that I think Hot Toys did their finest work on. I think they could have slimmed this guy down a little bit, had the tailoring pop just a little bit more, and really brought that amazing head sculpt to life in a more satisfactory way. Still, it's a great figure just because the head sculpt is so good. You got movable eyes like most of the figures on this list, and you have a really cool white outfit that pops, and an excellent likeness to Lars Mikkelsen. And in number 15, we have the Scarlet Witch from Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. This is the best Scarlet Witch that has been released by Hot Toys thus far. We do have the Artisan Scarlet Witch and the sculpted version from Endgame on the horizon, which I think will ultimately prove better than this figure, but for now, this is the best. The likeness to Elizabeth Olsen is fantastic. The crown covers up a decent amount of the forehead, but the likeness is still very visible through and through, and you can see Elizabeth Olsen there. What the big problem is no movable eyes. You can't really adjust the personality of this figure at all just because the eyes are stuck in a fixed position. This was right before Hot Toys started incorporating moving eyes on all their figures, and because of this, you don't have much posing versatility with her. Nonetheless, it's a really, really good figure because the likeness is so awesome, and if you got the deluxe version with the candle base, you can do a lot with her. I have her in my display for now until the Artisan version shows up, but for now, she's a great representation and a great likeness to Elizabeth Olsen and Scarlet Witch. All right, so at 14, we have the Hot Toys Attack of the Clone Episode 2 Star Wars Anakin Skywalker. This is Padawan Anakin that collectors have also wanted for a really long time. 2024 was that year. 2024 was the year of Hot Toys delivering figures that collectors have said they've wanted for years, and hopefully they came through and purchased them and showed that type of support. And I think they did, because this Anakin is absolutely awesome. This is a really good head sculpt. It is a really good likeness to Hayden Christensen. And I think you have a figure here that is worthy of top 15 consideration for the year. I don't think this one is better than Darkside Anakin or the upcoming Artisan Anakin Skywalker, but if you want a Padawan Anakin, I can't see the figure being all that much better than this one. You wouldn't do an Artisan rooted hair for this one, most likely. It's too short of a hairstyle, but I do think the likeness is very strong. Could it be slightly improved? Maybe a tad, but I do think this is an 8 to 8.5 likeness and very satisfying for a Padawan Anakin Skywalker. So if you really want all the Anakins, I think this one is a must add to your collection. If you're just looking for one, I think you can hold out for another Anakin being made at some point. Maybe a Darkside 2.0 or Revenge of the Sith sculpted version at some point. But for now, this Padawan version is really, really good. I love the Jedi outfit, and I love the fact that you get multiple lightsabers with him, USB power, and of course the robotic arm and a really cool base. And at number 13, we have the Hot Toys Darth Vader from Return of the Jedi. This, again, is another figure that collectors have clamored for years now because a Sideshow version existed, and it was solid, good, but as it usually goes, Sideshow figures are not quite the same quality as Hot Toys figures. And Return of the Jedi is a very iconic look for Darth Vader. Here you have the electrocuted helmet that a lot of collectors was very polarizing. They either loved it or hated it. For me, I'm fine with the inclusion. You don't have to use it, but it is a light up electrocuted helmet. Recreating the scene when Palpatine electrocutes Vader when he's saving Luke Skywalker. You have a Sebastian Shaw likeness for the Darth Vader head sculpt and a Darth Vader helmet should you choose to display either route. Both of them look awesome. The quarter scale Darth Vader was awesome for Return of the Jedi, and the 1/6 is no exception. This looks really, really good. You have the traditional Darth Vader cape that I can see looks like it's an inclusion on the same one on every Darth Vader. Not wired, it looks like to me. And of course you have the electrocuted helmet, a really cool base, and multiple display options. This figure looks awesome. If you need a Darth Vader, I could see a lot of people picking up the Return of the Jedi version. I'm sticking with the Kenobi version for now because the Kenobi version is just absolutely awesome. The battle damage, and of course, the clean version is really cool as well. And at number 12, we have the Hot Toys Spider-Man 2099 figure from Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I don't think any Hot Toys figure has had such a significant glow up from prototype to final product. The original product that was shown here for this Spider-Man was absolute ass. Jointed assery is what Hot Toys put on display there. And this final product is beautiful. It's stunning. The overall proportions of this figure are significant. They're bulky, they're heavy. The lightness on the head sculpt is really great. It's animated, but it looks awesome. The effects are really cool. You have a lot to like here. The fabric suit should allow for more significant posing. Creasing could still be a problem if you're not entirely careful with it. Bunching is also a little bit of an issue with this figure, but the effects are super cool. I'm more of a character pose type guy with poses like this anyway. So for me, I think this figure will look absolutely awesome on any collector's display who values a Spider-Man figure. If you really love the Spider-Verse films and you love this character, this guy is absolutely awesome. Really cool looking figure, really great design, a luminous reflective effect with a black light on it, and of course a great, fantastic head sculpt here. So really well done by Hot Toys to update this figure to a point where it looks incredible compared to, again, the Asteroid they put on display originally. And this guy looks absolutely awesome. I cannot say enough good things about him. I think the overall suit is really cool. The film was fantastic. Didn't love the ending, but I think overall the film was great. And you got a really, really good figure here. So to me, this one's pretty great. Maybe the most surprising figure on this list is number 11, the Hot Toys Darth Sidious from the Clone Wars. I thought this figure would be a disappointment. I thought that because I thought the head sculpt never looked that much like Ian McDiarmid, and I thought they would actually deteriorate or lessen in quality in the final production. That ended up not being the case. This is a little bit of a mix of a head sculpt that really could be Clone Wars and also live action, which is what Hot Toys has done with their Clone Wars line. It looks absolutely awesome. You have a hood that actually has wires throughout the whole hood, which is what Revan should have had, more on that later. And you also have wires in the cloak as well. This figure looks absolutely awesome. Has a ton of presence to it. It's a great Darth Sidious. You have two USB light up red lightsabers, and of course a really cool raised platform base that really does wonders for the character. So for me, I've considered picking up this guy for quite a while now. I think I'm going to hold out because I'm more of a prequel trilogy guy. I love the Revenge of the Sith Sidious that's on pre-order, so I'll probably hold out for that one. But I do want a Chancellor Palpatine at some point in my collection, and this would be a great option for that type of figure. And now we're winding down. We're in the top 10, and at number 10, we have the Hot Toys Black Suit Spider-Man. Black Suit Spider-Man is just an awesome figure. It is a symbiote figure that essentially represents Spider-Man originally getting the suit in the Spider-Man 2 video game. There is a symbiote suit a little bit later that looks a little bit angrier, a little bit more Venom-like, I guess you could say, on Peter Parker. This is in the early stages of Peter getting the symbiote suit, and it's a little more Spider-Man-like with a little bit less angry of a vibe to it. I have this figure in my collection, have for quite a while now. It has a ton of presence to it. The black suit is absolutely awesome. It has that gooey textured symbiote effect that really makes it feel like a living symbiote. You have the claws, and of course you have symbiote effects you can put on him. You have the changing head sculpt with the special edition where you have the Advanced Suit 2.0 head sculpt encased in a symbiote effect as if it's transforming into a symbiote suit. And it looks super cool. You have different effects there, and of course the claws, as I mentioned. This guy has a ton of presence on the shelf. Again, it's a Spider-Man symbiote suit. It looks absolutely awesome. This suit was an absolute blast to play as in the game, so I really loved it for that fact. And again, the claws take up a lot of space, but they're super cool. The symbiote effects are placed on there already, and you can do a lot with those. And at number 9, I may actually surprise some people, but I'm gonna go with Black Adam from the Black Adam film, and this is the gold suit. So this head sculpt is absolutely phenomenal. I wish that I loved this film much more than I did. I really did not like it at all. I kind of view it the same as The Flash. I feel like it's a wasted opportunity and a lot of missed potential here to, for one, have The Rock in a superhero role, which people have waited for decades, it feels like. And you finally got him, and the film is absolute ass. And again, you have a character that could have been really badass and maybe brought into the new DCU if James Gunn wanted to, but the film was just so terrible. It didn't make a lot of money, and it's just one that I feel like was a massive disappointment to fans. Black Adam is a character we've all wanted to see for a while, and to finally do him and to do him such injustice, not exactly great. The base is pretty cool, love this, but the joy of this figure, the star of the show, is the head sculpt. That's where the joy is coming from for collectors, because it looks absolutely perfect like Dwayne Johnson. I would love to see this one in person. I do kind of want Black Adam just so I can have this rock head sculpt in my collection, but I just dislike the film so much that I haven't been able to bring myself to do that. And in number 8, we have Hot Toys Darth Revan. So those who know me are probably surprised this figure is not higher on the list. Well, the reason for that is that the hood is ass. Hot Toys really delivered a substandard hood with this figure, and they've done a great job with their blogger photos making it look as good as it possibly can. But I promise you in hand, it takes quite a bit of work to make it look as good as it does in these photos. Regardless, the rest of the figure is awesome. The ankle joints aren't great. because they're just long ankle pegs that really don't feel as stable as other Hot Toys figures do. I'm not sure why Hot Toys elected to go that route, but they have, and the figure feels slightly unstable because of that. You do have 2 USB light up sabers, of course his purple and his red sabers, and the armor is very detailed with a wired cape and a wired hood. The hood is only wired in the front, not in the back, which causes it to poof up a bit, unfortunately. And because of that, the figure is a little less quality than it would otherwise be. I think for a lot of people, this will be a figure of the year contender. And I think for us, it being in the top 10 is very fair. I wish it were higher. I still think it's an amazing figure. It's almost perfect, but I just think Hot Toys should have spent a little bit longer fixing that hood to make it a little bit better for collectors, maybe with a wire throughout the entire thing so you can shape it to your liking. And without that, with that rather, I think this would have been maybe figure of the year, but without it, I think it could have been a figure of the year potential, but I still think it's just outside that, just because Hot Toys didn't quite do their due diligence entirely. And at number 7, we have the Hot Toys Deadpool from Deadpool and Wolverine. This figure is one that I think could have been even higher on this list, if not for the plethora of issues collectors had with the ankle pegs. A lot of collectors were getting this figure in hand and the ankle pegs were snapped. That happened to me, and I bought it from Sideshow Collectibles and they sent me a replacement. Hopefully the second version of this figure will be even better, and I'll have a figure that is going to withstand the test of time and not have broken ankle pegs. That said, if you didn't have that issue, I think you have a really great figure here. The first 2 Deadpool figures were good. The second one was very good actually, but this one takes it to another level. You have the Golden Desert Eagle pistols, and of course you have a baby pool as well, and of course even head pool as well. Really cool film, love Deadpool 3. And I think this iteration of Deadpool is really iconic. Again, this is a film, the highest grossing R-rated film of all time, and this is the best Deadpool that has been released thus far. There is another version coming from Hot Toys that hasn't been teased with a head sculpt that's a little bit battle damaged, but for now, this clean version is absolutely awesome. And at number 6, we have the Hot Toys C-3PO from Return of the Jedi. This figure is awesome. C-3PO is one that was a void for many collectors because we never had one from Hot Toys. Sideshow produced one. It was pretty good again, but not great. And Hot Toys have come in and made something absolutely awesome. I really wish this guy had USB light up. It would make the light up features much easier to maintain. The batteries in the head truly don't last very long, and to go in and swap them out, you have to pull the front faceplate off, turn the switch on, and then reattach the faceplate. Kind of a hassle, and the lights make such a huge difference in your display. So hopefully one day they'll make maybe in a New Hope version or something similar and have a USB powered function for this guy. Until then, this is an awesome figure. Die cast through and through, and you have a really good likeness, of course, to C-3PO from Return of the Jedi. I think they absolutely nailed this figure. The wires are awesome. You're not going to be able to pose him very frequently, very significantly. You need to be careful with the metal pistons and rods on the forearms because you can snap those off. But otherwise, this guy is awesome. You're not looking to do something too dynamic with C-3PO anyway. So because of that, you have a C-3PO figure that fills a void for a lot of collectors, and really at a high level, to say that. And at number 5, we have Hot Toys Lord Starkiller from The Force Unleashed. Starkiller was not a character I was even that familiar with until Hot Toys announced him. And then I went back and played the game on Xbox and really enjoyed it. I have not played Force Unleashed yet, but I really love this look for Starkiller. Apologies for in my review video, I said it was the Sith Stalker outfit. It is not the Sith Stalker outfit, but this is an outfit from the DLC from the first game that you can get that is really cool. I'm glad that Hot Toys went with this outfit because while I love Gale America and his look in Force Unleashed, I like this look a bit more. I think it really does have much more presence on the shelf, and it is a really cool vibe for Starkiller. You have the lightsabers that chain to the belt there, and you have hooks or claws for hands that I think are really cool. You have to be careful with when posing not to break something, and you have wires running from the inside of the wrist up into the bicep armor as well there. Really cool. The intricacies and paint applications on the armor and the helmet are awesome. You get several different lightsabers, one of them being USB-C powered, which is Starkiller's lightsaber that he primarily uses. And I wish there were more powered lightsabers, but the other ones clip to the back of the belt, which is super cool in the front of the belt as well. This guy has an insane amount of presence. If you haven't already seen my review, go check that out for this Starkiller figure. I absolutely love this figure. It blew me away. It's one that I did not expect to be as good as it is. It's honestly a better figure than Darth Revan, which pains me to say because I love Revan more as a character, but Starkiller is awesome, and this is the type of figure that really pops out in a display. You could display him next to Darth Vader, and I think you'd have a really badass display there. And for me, damn. At number 4, we have Hot Toys new red and blue suit Spider-Man from Spider-Man No Way Home. So for me, this is the best Spider-Man figure that has ever been created. You have a new neck piece that really allows for a more accurate and realistic look, so the fabric isn't all the way up the neck and it looks like it's choking him. This one is much more realistic and accurate to the film, and you have an insane likeness to Tom Holland. The base is awesome. I love the Spider-Man suit. You have a very classic red and blue contrast here with the Spider-Man logo nice and visible on the chest there. And again, whether you want to display him maskless or mask on, this guy's gonna have a ton of presence. He has the snowy chimney base from No Way Home, which is awesome. I really hope this suit ends up doing something in future iterations of Spider-Man, maybe Spider-Man 4, but I guess only time will tell. It's also the first real Peter Parker Spider-Man suit that he made himself, where he feels like Spider-Man and no longer Spider-Boy. And in number 3, we have the Hot Toys Darth Vader from the Kenobi Disney Plus series. This figure is out of this world good. In my opinion, as I've said repeatedly, this is the definitive Darth Vader as of now. You can make him clean, you can make him battle damage. He has a USB light up function for the waist boxes, the chest box, and the lightsaber. The likeness to Hayden Christensen is out of this world good. And even the clean Darth Vader, as you can see here, is awesome. This is my favorite Darth Vader that I've seen clean as well, and you have both of them in one figure. I thought about getting a second one. I considered it just because you have two different looks here, and they're both absolutely incredible. But I'm going with the battle damage for now, and I'm going to roll with that. But should you want to display clean, this one looks awesome as well. The likeness to Hayden Christensen is just so good, you can't ignore it. It's just incredible. The light up functions really bring this figure to life. The two separate bases are just awesome. Geez, this figure is just so good. I'm at a loss for words. I don't know how you could have a better Darth Vader than this, short of making him nylon instead of pleather for longevity purposes. But other than that, Hot Toys absolutely killed this, and I cannot say enough good things about it. One of the best figures ever made. And in number 2, we have the Hot Toys Artisan Joker from The Dark Knight. This figure is awesome. Again, InArt released this figure in a 2-pack long before Hot Toys ever got on board. Well, now Hot Toys has joined the race and they said, okay, we got this Artisan line with rooted hair. We're gonna make them exclusive. Let's see how this turns out. Well, it turned out pretty damn good. I don't have mine in hand yet, but boy, am I excited to get this guy. I am going to compare it to the InArt. To me, it looks better than the InArt. I am super excited to see what it looks like. And a lot of collectors have just clamored and praised this figure for how good it is. It's the first real release of the Artisan line in my eyes, because the Batman Imposter Joker wasn't really one that collectors even knew about for a while or were that excited about. This was really the first one, and it came out awesome. The hair looks awesome. The hairline is not perfect, but still pretty close to accurate. The paint applications look great. The likeness looks great. The rooted hair looks very strong. And of course, you have a really cool base here with a lot of accessories and a lot of different things you can do with this Joker figure. And finally, we are at number 1. And number 1 is Hot Toys Bane from The Dark Knight Rises. Bane is an absolutely incredible figure. I think it might be the most lifelike figure that I've ever seen in person. It is remarkable. Honestly, you can put the jacket on him. You have this iconic wool coat outfit, and you have, of course, the leather jacket look as well. But for me, it's all about the seamless look. Hot Toys created with Fison, with collaboration, a custom seamless body for this Bane with the scars, with the skin texture, with all of it, and it looks incredible. The proportions are great. You have a really cool base there. You have 3 separate looks you can use. The likeness to Tom Hardy is awesome. The detail in the mask is incredible. Moving eyes, so you can give this guy a lot of personality, make him look menacing if you want. The only downside is that small little wrist peg that's visible, but I promise you, in most poses, it's not going to be a problem because it's pretty well concealed. A very tiny issue. I wish there was a way to fix that. Unfortunately, there's not. The gauntlet covers the one, no gauntlet on the other side, unfortunately. And because of that, you do have a visible wrist peg. Regardless, proportions are fantastic, custom body, incredible, amazing head sculpt, and just a ton of presence. The base is really cool. Multiple looks. You can do so much with this guy. I have never seen a more lifelike figure in my hands than this one. And the weight of the body and the substantiality of it is insane. This guy is just, I cannot imagine a better 2.0 than this. This Hot Toys absolutely killed it. The only thing they could have done, again, was conceal that wrist peg. You can kind of pull the silicone skin over it just a little bit to conceal it. This guy is, damn. This is incredible. Look at that likeness of Tom Hardy. Absolutely awesome. Hot Toys knocked it out of the park. They went all in. You can see the scars on the back there and the skin texture. This guy is just absolutely awesome. Again, at a loss for words, one of the best figures ever made. 2024 was pretty great. Thank you guys so much for sticking with me to the end of this video. Those were the 50 very best Hot Toys released in 2024. Make sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know where you agree, where you disagree, and how many of these figures you added to your collection in 2024. Guys, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click the notification bell so you're notified when content goes live here. I appreciate all of you. Make sure to have a happy new year, and thank you as always for the support. I'll catch you in the next video. Peace out. See you later. Bye.